Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to 90 Day Fiancé latest news updates.
The journey that began with uncertainty, cultural barriers, emotional struggles, and endless waiting has finally reached a turning point that no one saw coming so soon. On 90 Day Fiancé, viewers have followed Alliya's story from the very beginning, watching her navigate love, immigration hurdles, personal identity, and the fear of rejection in a country that was not originally her own. Now, in a shocking and emotional twist, Alliya has finally received her green card, marking one of the most important milestones of her life. But just when fans thought the journey had reached its conclusion, another powerful chapter unfolds. As Alliya meets with her immigration lawyer to legally change her first name, signaling not just a legal update but a deeply personal transformation. For Alliya, the green card is more than just a document. It represents safety, stability, and the right to exist without fear. For years, her life revolved around visa deadlines, interviews, paperwork, and the constant anxiety of what if. What if the application is denied? What if one mistake ruins everything? What if love is not enough? These questions haunted her every step of the way. The pressure was immense, especially as cameras followed her most vulnerable moments, capturing tears, arguments, and moments of quiet strength that resonated with viewers around the world. When the confirmation finally arrived that her green card had been approved, the emotion was overwhelming. Alliya's reaction was not dramatic screaming or celebration, but something far more powerful: relief. Relief that she could finally breathe. Relief that she no longer had to measure her future in months or expiration dates. Relief that her relationship no longer existed under the shadow of forced separation. This approval changed everything, not just legally but emotionally and psychologically. Throughout her time on 90 Day Fiancé, Alliya's story stood out because it was never just about romance. It was about identity, about belonging, about finding a place in a world that often demands you fit into predefined boxes. As an immigrant, she faced the challenge of adapting to a new culture while holding on to her roots. As a partner, she carried the weight of proving her love was real, not transactional. And as an individual, she struggled with defining who she truly was in a space that constantly questioned her legitimacy. That the green card approval scene was quiet yet powerful. Sitting across from her partner, Alliya held the official notice in her hands, her fingers slightly trembling. Years of waiting condensed into a single piece of paper. In that moment, she was no longer just the foreign fiancé or the one waiting for approval. She was officially a permanent resident of the United States. The cameras captured her eyes filling with tears, not from sadness, but from the release of years of bottled-up stress. But as fans soon discovered, this was not the end of Alliya's transformation. In fact, it was only the beginning. Shortly after receiving her green card, Alliya scheduled a meeting with her immigration lawyer to begin the process of legally changing her first name. This decision sparked massive discussion online, with fans debating the meaning behind it. Was this about starting fresh? Was it about reclaiming identity? Or was it a symbolic step toward becoming the person she has always felt she was inside? During the meeting, Alliya appeared calm, confident, and deeply self-aware. This was not an impulsive decision. It was something she had clearly thought about for a long time. She explained to her lawyer that her current name no longer fully represented who she had become through her journey. Immigration had changed her, love had changed her, struggle had changed her, and now stability had given her the freedom to choose who she wanted to be moving forward. Her lawyer explained the legal process carefully, outlining how a name change works after green card approval. Unlike during the visa process, this step was now fully within her control. There was no fear of jeopardizing her status, no anxiety about red flags. For the first time, Alliya was making a legal decision based purely on personal choice, not survival. That realization alone was emotional. As she listened, Alliya nodded, thoughtfully asking questions not just about paperwork, but about timelines, documentation, and how the change would affect future citizenship applications. This attention to detail showed just how much she had learned throughout her immigration journey. She was no longer confused by the system. She understood it, and that understanding gave her power. Fans quickly reacted to the news, flooding social media with mixed emotions. Some applauded Alliya's courage, calling her story inspiring and empowering. Others questioned whether changing her name meant abandoning her past or cultural identity. But those closest to her know the truth: it was never about erasing where she came from. It was about honoring where she was going. Throughout 90 Day Fiancé, Alliya often spoke about feeling invisible, misunderstood, or reduced to stereotypes. Her name, given at birth, carried memories of a life where she felt unheard. By choosing a new name, she wasn't rejecting her history. She was acknowledging her growth. In many cultures, names carried deep meaning, and for Alliya, this change symbolized rebirth, autonomy, and self-acceptance. Her partner's reaction to the decision was equally important. Instead of resistance or confusion, there was support. Genuine support. He listened to her reasons, respected her choice, and reassured her that he loved her not because of a name or status, but because of who she was. That moment, subtle yet profound, showed how far their relationship had come since the early episodes filled with tension and doubt. Looking back at Alliya's journey from the first episode to now, the transformation is undeniable. She arrived with hope, but also fear. She faced skepticism from family members, pressure from immigration authorities, and the emotional toll of living in limbo. Yet she persevered. Each setback strengthened her resolve. Each tear sharpened her clarity. And now, with her green card secured and a new name on the horizon, she stands stronger than ever. This storyline resonates deeply with viewers because it reflects real-life immigrant experiences that are rarely shown with such honesty. The waiting, the vulnerability, the identity crisis, the small victories that feel monumental. Alliya's story reminds us that immigration is not just a legal process, it's a human one. As the season progresses, fans are eager to see what comes next. Will Alliya officially reveal her new name on screen? How will this change affect her relationship, her career, and her sense of self? And ultimately, how will this chapter influence her path toward US citizenship? One thing is certain, Alliya is no longer just surviving, she is choosing. The shock of the green card approval may have surprised viewers, but the name change reveals something even deeper. It shows a woman who has finally gained the freedom to define herself on her own terms. No deadlines, no fear, no permission required. In a franchise filled with dramatic breakups and explosive arguments, Alliya's story stands out as something quieter yet far more powerful, a story of growth, resilience, and self-determination. And as fans continue to watch, one question remains at the center of it all. This may be the end of one journey, but could it be the beginning of Alliya's truest self? As the news continued to spread, Alliya herself seemed to slowly realize the magnitude of what she had accomplished. The green card approval was not just a legal victory, it was validation. Validation that her love was real, that her sacrifices mattered, and that her patience was not in vain. For so long, her life had been defined by waiting for documents, waiting for interviews, waiting for decisions made by strangers behind desks. Now, for the first time, she was no longer waiting. She was moving forward. The cameras captured a quieter side of Alliya in the days following the approval. There were no dramatic celebrations or lavish parties. Instead, there were moments of reflection. Sitting alone, she spoke about how close she came to giving up more than once. She remembered nights spent crying silently, afraid that showing weakness would make her seem ungrateful or unworthy. She admitted that the pressure of representing immigrants on such a public platform often felt overwhelming. Every mistake felt magnified. Every argument felt like proof that she didn't belong. Yet here she was, still standing. The decision to change, her name began to make even more sense as she opened up about her past. Alliya explained that her original name was tied to expectations placed on her by others' expectations about how she should behave, who she should love, and what kind of future she was allowed to dream of. Immigration forced her to confront these expectations head. In a new country, stripped of familiarity, she had to ask herself difficult questions. Who am I when no one knows me? Who am I without labels? Who am I when survival is no longer the only goal? That internal journey is what ultimately led her to the lawyer's office. During the follow-up meeting, the lawyer emphasized that a name change after green card approval is a deeply personal choice, and one that many immigrants make once they feel secure. Some do it to simplify pronunciation. Some do it to reflect marriage. Others do it like Alliya, to align their legal identity with their emotional truth. Hearing this seemed to lift a weight from Alliya's shoulders. She wasn't alone. Her experience was part of a much larger story shared by countless others who walked similar paths in silence. As she prepared the necessary paperwork, Alliya spoke about how different this process felt compared to everything else she had endured. There was no interrogation, no suspicion, no need to prove her worth. The system was no longer questioning her motives. Instead, it was simply responding to her choice. That shift from being evaluated to being empowered was profound. Her partner noticed the change too. He described Alliya as calmer, more confident, and more present than ever before. The tension that once dominated their relationship had eased. Conversations felt lighter. Plans felt real. They began talking about the future in concrete terms, instead of hypotheticals. Careers, travel, family dreams that once felt risky now felt possible. Fans of 90 Day Fiancé couldn't help but notice the contrast between early episodes and now. The woman who once hesitated to speak up, who feared rocking the boat, was now advocating for herself, with clarity and strength. The name change wasn't about reinvention for others, it was about recognition for herself. Of course, not everyone understood. Critics questioned her motives, accusing her of trying to erase her past or become someone she wasn't. But Alliya addressed these concerns directly, stating that growth does not mean rejection. It means expansion. She carries her history with her, but she refuses to be limited by it. Her new name, she explained, is not a mask, it's a mirror, as filming continued. Producers highlighted how rare it is to witness such an intimate evolution on reality television. So often, immigration stories are reduced to drama and conflict. But Alliya's journey showed the quieter realities, the paperwork that never ends, the fear that never fully goes away, and the courage it takes to keep believing in yourself when the system feels stacked against you. The green card approval may have been the headline, but the name change was the soul of the story in one particularly emotional scene. Alliya reflected on what she would tell her younger self if given the chance. She said she would tell her not to shrink herself to fit into spaces that don't understand her. She would say that fear does not mean failure. And most importantly, she would say that one day she would get to choose her own name, her own future, and her own voice. As the season nears its conclusion, viewers are left with a powerful message. Love may open doors, but self-acceptance is what allows you to walk through them. Alliya's journey is not about becoming American or fitting into a new culture. It's about becoming whole. The shock of her green card approval reminded everyone why they fell in love with her story in the first place. But the decision to change her name showed something even deeper, woman finally claiming ownership of her life. And as fans continue to follow her journey, one thing is clear. This is not the end of Alliya's story. It's the beginning of a future written in her own name.